Okay, so Professor Avi Loeb is a massive figure in the ufology community and a big part of the law. He's went on an expedition with his students. He's a very notable lecturer of some kind at a very prestigious school, and he went and got these fragments. And recently, he went on News Nation because Tim Burchett said something about a massive underwater craft the size of a fucking football field, guys. So we're gonna be checking this out. We're gonna be checking out the angles, and we always do. And as soon as it comes out, so make sure you subscribe, notifications on, share this video. That helps the absolute most. And I see the few of you who do share, and I appreciate the fuck out of you. And like, comment, and yeah, without further ado, get your snacks, get your popcorn, because today we're gonna watch something really entertaining. So make sure you watch until the end because the best parts are there.
We're bringing in Harvard Professor Avi Loeb on this, who found fragments of what he says could be an extraterrestrial object on the floor of the Pacific. It's always good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.
Let's start here with what Burchett is describing. What do you make of this account from an admiral through Burchett of a football field-sized UAP moving at incredible speeds underwater?
Well, there are definitely anomalous objects that the military recognizes. The question is whether it's malfunction of the sensors or human-made objects or something else. And to figure it out, we really need access to the data. And, obviously the government is mostly interested in adversarial nations, any risk to national security. But if they cannot figure something out and it's not clear whether it's human-made, I suggest that scientists like myself will help them in figuring it out.
And this is a very good point that's being made, right? We need to get this technology, NHI technology, this information out to the public because it regards to the nature of existence and the nature of reality as we know it, right? It's a fundamental right to know that kind of thing, and you can't withhold it from people. That's fucked up, right? And this technology needs to get to the best scientists. You can't give it to specific ones who have egos and are in their echo chambers and believe their results. We need to be having real science, a lot of people, a lot of thoughts, a lot of minds on this, because if the US doesn't develop this, which is the leader of the free world, a communist dictatorship country could do this and get further. And there's no knowing what that means for humanity, right? So it's extremely important that this gets made open source to a certain regard. You can keep the weaponry developments classified, etc., but there's got to be technologies that can be developed from this that benefits all. So
I want to play a quick clip from our very own Ross Coulthart and get your reaction on the other side. Let's take a listen.
Look, I've heard this story before. I've heard multiple accounts of objects moving at ridiculous speeds underwater. I've actually spoken to submariners in both the American military and also the Australian military who've told me that they've recorded objects moving at over 1,000 kilometres an hour underwater. That's faster than the speed of sound.
So faster than the speed of sound. Professor, what does your scientific mind make of this? Is it possible?
Well, I want to see the data because that will allow us to figure out what is going on. There was a meteor, a half a meter in size, that collided with Earth about a decade ago, and we went to the Pacific Ocean and recovered tiny molten droplets from the site of the crash. And we would like to go again and figure out if there are bigger pieces out of the wreckage of this meteor. It came from outside the solar system, and it had an unusual material strength and unusual speed. And we hope to do that in August 2025. We have a ship in mind. We just need $6.5 million. I'm waiting to hear from potential donors.
So I misunderstood. I thought Avi Loeb, the farm boy, he always refers to himself as a curious young farm boy. And he's curious. He promotes curiosity, which has guided us as far as we have come. So I like that about Avi Loeb. Very interesting guy. He seems very honest and credible, and he does his own research. He wants to find his own answers, which is honorable as well. So he's wanting to go on a new expedition. He knows the ship he wants, and he wants to go look for the main object that was leaving behind these spherules that he collected. And they were of weird composite, right? They were made of materials that is very unusual and have to have formed in space, like a metamaterial, I'm pretty sure. And the object came from interstellar space, so outside our solar system, which is very notable at weird speeds. And I think it's safe to say this needs to be investigated to the full extent, right? But the military provided these details to Avi Loeb. But there was so much confusion over whether the details of this object were correct. Even Oumuamua, it's like a fucking same case, except Oumuamua didn't crash with Earth. It just went by, took a look, and said, hey, you know, so.
What makes you think these molten spherules would be extraterrestrial in nature? What raised your eyebrows about them?
So in fact, we published two very detailed papers about the materials we found, and the chemical composition and also the structure of those droplets indicated that they came from beyond Earth for sure, because some elements are missing, and those elements usually evaporate. These are volatile elements that evaporate during a fireball, an explosion that occurs when an object burns up as a result of its friction with air. And moreover, we found a high abundance of elements like beryllium, lanthanum, uranium, that you don't find in the primitive materials that made the solar system. In fact, such an abundance was never found on Earth, the Moon, Mars. And so we have a conjecture that maybe it came from outside the solar system, but we want to visit the site again and figure out the nature of the object. Was it a rock or some technological gadget?
I like how he describes it as either being a rock or a technological gadget. That phrasing specifically is really interesting. Technological gadget sounds like something out of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Is that what it was called? Jesus, that's old stuff. I think what I was thinking about is Spy Kids. I think it was called. Oh my god, who remembers that? Gee, I'm getting old, guys. Anybody remember that shit?
Are you saying that perhaps it wasn't a meteorite, but it could have been an alien craft?
We just don't know. I should say also this month, the Minor Planet Center at the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics at first cataloged an object in the sky as if it's a new asteroid reported by an amateur astronomer. But then they realized that, in fact, it was the Tesla Roadster car that was launched as a dummy payload in 2018 by Elon Musk on the Falcon Heavy. And so what I would say is perhaps Elon Musk is not the most accomplished space entrepreneur since the Big Bang. 13.8 billion years ago, and we should look around and see if we have evidence for a neighbor, because if there is a civilization that predated us, it's quite possible we can learn about new science and technology from them.
So, speaking of Oumuamua, I have something else that has to be shown, and thank you for staying until this part of the video. It is much appreciated.
You know, it's fascinating to hear that the reason we potentially haven't found that there's life in other planets is Adolf Hitler. If you don't know who Avi Loeb is by now, let me fill you in.
All the way from Harvard University, please join me in welcoming to the stage our guest tonight, Dr. Avi Loeb.
A team of researchers, including Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb,
renowned astrophysicist Avi Loeb.
Professor Loeb is a Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University. He has authored 8 books and over 800 scientific papers.
May have just found a trace of an interstellar object in the ocean.
Loeb's audacious theory sends shockwaves through the scientific community.
Professor Loeb, he is a Harvard professor and head of the Galileo Project, has just come back from a trip that he says has advanced our understanding.
He posits that this interstellar interloper may, in fact, be a clandestine emissary from a distant civilization.
You know, if we believe that we are alone and special and unique, that shows arrogance.
Avi Loeb became well known when he first identified Oumuamua, an interstellar meteor, as being not a meteor. He first posited that it could potentially be an extraterrestrial object, our first extraterrestrial object that we've identified. The reason he gave? Its trajectory. Apparently, it had taken a different course than what was expected of a standard comet. There was the predicted expected trajectory, and then the actual trajectory of Oumuamua. And that difference is what made Avi think something could be up.